Go back. A federal judge in Tallahassee yesterday said, "We have been the laughing stock of the world election after election." While that might be true, it's not because we simply don't know how to do this election thing. You think machines that tabulate votes don't break down in New York, Illinois, or California? You don't think snafus involving signatures, undervotes, overvotes don't happen in New Jersey, Ohio, or New Mexico? These things happen all the time in every election, everywhere. We just don't often hear about them because most elections aren't this close. We are a deeply divided state, and our statewide races reflect just that. So while the midterms once again have exposed the kinks in our counting method, and to all you state legislators watching right now, and we know that you do, by all means pony up the money to run our elections like Publix runs the checkout line at their supermarkets. And to the rest of us, maybe think a little harder about our political discourse and the candidates that we back, and maybe eventually we'll come up with some that earn support of a clear majority of us. And joining us for more are former State Representative Ray Pilon and Jacob Ogles of SRQ Magazine. Gentlemen, thank you very much. And, you know, Ray, what about that? Because you were in a razor-thin matchup against Margaret Good. You came up just short. And the same could be said about so many races around the state.
Absolutely correct, Alan. And we know that elections, like you say, all over the country have we're looking at a situation in Georgia right now. We know what happened out west. Here in Florida, I think ever since the hanging chads, and since we are such a diverse and such an important state in national elections particularly, that the spotlight is always on us. I believe that the legislature should, as Senator Galvano said, take a hard look at what we've done. What we've done is we've changed from just absentee voting to now that we have vote by mail. What was the reason? Well, we wanted to make sure that we didn't disenfranchise anybody. So make it easier to vote. Long time before the election even gets here. Don't have a disagreement with that, but may need to change.
Right. And Jacob, on the other hand, if you look at the U.S. Senate race against, between Governor Scott and Bill Nelson, 12,000 votes over, between 8 million cast. I mean, that kind of goes to what I was saying, but it also kind of goes to the kind of campaigns that both men ran.
Well, it also speaks to what happens when you have close elections. And we've been covering this for a while, Alan. We know that when you have two people fighting to the very end, they're going to bring out every single voter that they possibly can. I think a big part of this really that the public ought to absorb is the voter apathy. That if we had more people that just came out of a sense of responsibility rather than waiting till somebody scared them to the polls, then maybe we would have a little bit more of a healthy understanding of where the public actually stands rather than just having people scrap out the base.
Well, let me ask you about that, because by voter registration, Democrats do outnumber Republicans in Florida.
Yep, and they never have as many people vote as Republicans do.
Still, for Democratic turnout throughout Florida, if all things were equal, I mean, this was the most impressive Democratic outcome to the polls in a very long time around here.
Absolutely. I thought we had one of the most impressive Democratic slates of candidates that we've seen in a very long time. But that doesn't negate the fact that the Republicans are organized. It doesn't negate the fact that there's always a good bench of Republican people waiting to run for office.
Ray, what about, as I mentioned, the discourse of our campaigns? You have people like Congressman Matt Gaetz from the Panhandle who are talking about Democrats stealing the election. That doesn't really bring confidence in terms of...
No, and I, with all due respect to Matt, because Matt was my chairman of our Criminal Justice Committee when I was the vice chair when we did the marijuana law. But he is a staunch conservative and a huge Trump supporter. So he has done what I think, if the shoe was on the other foot, the same thing would happen.
Okay, we have to take a quick break. We're going to be back with more, but first let's get to our poll question of the day. And with that, here is ABC 7 producer Chloe Conboy. Chloe.
Alan, today I posted your Facebook poll question asking viewers, do you agree with President Trump's tweet that the midterm results were better than other sitting presidents? If you haven't voted in the poll yet, there's still time on our Facebook page and comment what you think. Coming up, I'll share some of those comments with you. Alan, back to you.
Chloe, thank you. We're going to continue our conversation right after this, so stay with us.
According to Golf Digest, 2 of the nation's top golf resorts are on the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail, the Auburn Opelika Marriott at Grand National, and the Renaissance Ross Bridge Golf Resort and Spa in Birmingham. Plus, the Marriott at Grand National was recognized as Hotel of the Year by Marriott International. Experience luxury and world-class golf Southern style. Visit rtjgolf/resorts or call 800-949-4444 to book your trip to the trail.
Coast Guard, we are taking on water.
The United States Coast Guard. They secure our ports and waterways, protect our environment, keep drugs away from our kids, and save lives. It's dangerous work. And in times of triumph or tragedy, the Coast Guard Foundation answers the call to support Coast Guard members and their families. Learn more at coastguardfoundation.org.
Saturdays at midnight on ABC 7.
Once you get atrial fibrillation, you need to have a very close relationship with your primary doctor. Prevention is the whole ball game here, because once you have a stroke, you can't undo it. A year without stroke is a year that you can enjoy doing the things that you've worked all your life to finally get to do. You took care of yourself. You did what is necessary for you to be around one more year. And then next year, we'll celebrate one more year without a stroke.
I am the resident district manager on the FAU campus for Chartwell. Whenever I see Haley, I do not see a person with a disability. I see a person with extraordinary abilities. Haley is always smiling. She's always on time. She gives fantastic customer service and is always focused on any job that she's given.
Hi, this is Dan Marino. When your business recruits people with disabilities, everybody wins. To find out how, go to disabilitieswork.employflorida.com.
Our conversation on the week in politics continues right after we get a check on the First Alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Thanks, Alan. Different perspective. Same sunset over Sarasota Bay. From the Van Wezel webcam, you can see a little bit of ripple on the water there. That's a result of the stronger winds today, but those winds are dying down. Boaters, good news. Over the weekend, seas are calming, and we'll see a light chop in the bays and inland waters. Maybe a bit brisk in the morning, but I don't know if I want to be out there in a boat that early because temperatures are going to be cool to start the day off. In fact, already there, 57 degrees our current temperature, and we're expecting temperatures in the low to mid-50s by 11 tonight. 49 by around 7, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning in Northport, Mayaca City, and even in Lakewood Ranch. A little bit warmer, but still below average along the Keys. And we will see temperatures in the mid-40s in places like Wauchula, also into, again, Arcadia. Well, the high temperatures tomorrow will be a little bit warmer than we saw today. There won't be much wind either. It should be just a gorgeous day. Low humidity, lots of sunshine, temperatures in the mid-70s, and we'll expect a little bit warmer weather to move in on Sunday. Well, all the talk has been about the nor'easter, which has caused all sorts of headaches for traveling over the northeast United States and through the Midwest due to the ice storm there a couple of days ago. That storm has since exited off and continues to move through Halifax and eventually on into St. John's. But we're getting some lake effect snows near Buffalo and western portions of New York tonight. Those are expected to continue as a result of that west to northwest wind. For us, high and dry. High pressure moves in, dry conditions persist. right through the weekend and beyond. We're not expecting a lot of rainfall at all the way through Thanksgiving for the most part. You can see some low clouds off into the Atlantic, also into the Gulf of Mexico. These are known as street clouds because they line up like a street. As you see right there, that's just that cold air moving over the warmer waters of the Gulf of Mexico. The Gulf of Mexico really starting to cool down too over the northern portion of that particular body of water. North winds will stay 5 to 10 miles an hour. You'll notice a little bit of a turn to the northeast tomorrow, and that turn is going to warm us up. We'll see highs in the mid-70s, right around 75 degrees. Still below average. Average high for this time of year at 78 degrees, and we'll get back to that, I think, on Sunday. Low temperatures won't be as cool on Sunday morning, but you'll still need a jacket, I think. We'll be in the mid to upper 50s. I mentioned that Clipper system, another one coming through Ohio, Indiana, Illinois. It moves off to the northeast. Another quick hitting system moves through the northern New England states on Tuesday. We'll watch this area right here. This is going to bring us a slight chance for a shower or two come late Thanksgiving and into Friday morning. Now, there will be a lot of people out for those early morning sales, and it could be a little wet. That storm will once again move up the northeast coast. Right now, it doesn't appear it's going to be as bad, but we'll have to watch it. If it moves closer, they could see another pretty big storm system over the northeast United States. 57 degrees right now. It's clear, and it's low as far as the humidity goes. Right now, it's 72%, and that dew point really low. The high today was 70. The low this morning was 56 degrees, below the average, and current temperatures are looking at 30s and 40s across the northeast and throughout the mid-Mississippi Valley. We're seeing temperatures in the 50s there. 14 now in Minot. Here's the forecast then for boaters tomorrow. I mentioned a little bit of a breeze tomorrow morning, and then looking pretty good in the afternoon. The extended forecast is calling for mid-70s tomorrow, upper 70s on Sunday. That's more average, and then it stays that way right through Thanksgiving. Chance for rain, as I mentioned, on late Thursday and into Friday morning. Alan?
Bob, thank you. We are talking about the week in politics, and joining us for more are former state representative Ray Pilon, Barry Edwards, a Democratic consultant, and Jacob Ogles of SRQ Magazine. And Barry, welcome to the Trapezoid. We've been talking about how close this race for governor was, and there was an interesting article in the Tampa Bay Times today about what role, if any, race played in the governor's race, and you had some interesting quotes. And I'm wondering, because a lot of the polls going into Election Day had Gillum up, and people really assumed that he had an excellent chance of winning, but you said that there were certain factors other than race that really kind of explains why you believe he lost.
Absolutely. If you look at the polls in the beginning, right after he won the nomination, he was up 6-8 points, typically in those polls. And so people knew he was black at that point. And if you had what they call the Bradley effect, where you say you're going to vote for him but don't, you'd have the polls would show he's higher, but then on Election Day he would fail. But the polls gradually got down especially after Susan Wiles was hired by Ron DeSantis' campaign, his record, his progressive views, and the FBI investigation came out. As people became more and more aware of those, his negative rose and his poll numbers fell. So black was not why he lost. He lost because he was too liberal for the state of Florida. And this was the race where progressives have always told us that if you had a pure progressive, they would turn out in droves, and it just didn't happen for him or Sean Shaw.
But Jacob, the Tampa Bay Times looked at exit polls from around the state, and in a lot of key areas, Bill Nelson outperformed Andrew Gillum, which is really kind of a surprise because the preconceived notion is that Gillum might bring Nelson across the finish line.
That's right. All the polls in advance of the election were showing Gillum polling better than Nelson. Most were showing both of the Democrats winning. So it is still a bit of a question, I think, exactly what happened. I do agree Gillum's negatives were going up quite a bit, but I don't know if I'd quite dismiss the Bradley effect completely.
Ray, what do you think?
Well, it's pretty obvious that people don't understand. Well, I guess we should have learned our lesson with polls, but Barry's correct about how those polls reacted, especially towards the end. What people don't count on when they do these polls, even though they do no party affiliates, Democrats, demographics, whatever, we never hear on the media what the sampling was, which is very critical. I mean, I can do polls that are 300 people or 800 people. There's probably not much difference. But from the Republican standpoint, having known these Republicans in Florida for now some 40 years, they were sitting at home saying, yeah, watch.
Well, but let me ask you this, because Gillum whether you agree with him or not, was, laid out what he was for and his ideas, and I still don't understand or know what DeSantis ran on, except for
Neither do I. But another thing for Gillum is there was a whisper campaign about his sexuality, and when Adam Corey released the pictures of him with the black man and the white man, and I just interviewed some black women this morning, and they used the word chummy. He was too chummy. So there was a whisper campaign, and if you look at the exit polls, Bill Nelson actually performed about 6 to 8 points better amongst African Americans than Andrew Gillum.
Yeah.
And so you can't discount that factor.
Right. All right, we have to take a quick break. We're just getting warmed up. Our conversation on the midterm elections will continue right after this quick break. Stay with us.
Great.
It's year-end clearance time at every Gettle location. Over 3,000 new vehicles, over 1,000 used vehicles on clearance right now at Gettle.com. And Gettle Pre-Owned Certified Plus means buying with peace of mind. Get credit help, fast cash for your car, and year-end clearance prices right now at a Gettle dealership near you. Gettle's got it. At Gettle.com.
Our nation's servicemen and women show great courage and leadership, both on and off the battlefield. When they transition to civilian life, they can apply the skills and values they learned in the military to the workplace. That's why the Coalition to Salute America's Heroes is urging employers everywhere to be smart, bet on a vet. Hiring a veteran is also a great way to show your appreciation for them. To learn more, call 1-888-44-SALUTE.
A promise was made, a promise that hit the beaches of Normandy, a vow that captured Iwo Jima, a contract that weathered Tet, a pledge that stormed the desert in Iraq, an IOU that braved IEDs in Kandahar. A promise was made to America's veterans. DAV fights to keep that promise, so all veterans and their families get the benefits and support they earned. For help, visit DAV.org.
Here's something we bet you didn't know. Nearly half of all cancers can be prevented. That's right, half. Nearly 50%, mostly by making small everyday changes in your diet and controlling your weight, walking more, eating less, and eating foods that help you and your family to seriously reduce the risk of cancer. And of course, by not smoking. Visit the Cancer Prevention Together We Can website and get a free 30-day planner filled with tips, recipes, stats, and more about protecting your family. Go to prevent50.org.
Watch Saturdays at midnight on ABC 7. Premieres September 8th. On the next Black Almanac.
Think nonprofits don't understand good business? Well, Sarasota has 32 of them collaborating to develop future physicians, physicists, creatives. Their business plan focuses on preparing babies born into poverty for the workforce.
One of the purposes of this whole initiative is to get all of us working together.
Sunday morning at 7:30 on ABC 7.
Are you a soccer mom or dad? Regardless of their age or experience level, when your kids play soccer or any other sport, there's one person on the sideline who is key to help recognize and seek medical care for sports-related concussion. It's you. You need to know the signs and symptoms of concussion, and you need to act if you think your child has been injured. Remember, when in doubt, sit them out. To learn more, go to cdc.gov/concussion. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004.
Get breaking news alerts focused on the Suncoast. Download the ABC 7 News app. You're watching ABC 7 News at 7:30.
Welcome back to the Week in Politics, and joining us for more are former State Representative Ray Pilon, Democratic political consultant Barry Edwards, and Jacob Ogles of SRQ Magazine. But first, our poll question tonight. Here's ABC 7's digital producer, Chloe Conboy. Chloe.
Alan, today I posted your Facebook poll question asking viewers, do you agree with President Trump's tweet that the midterm results were better than other sitting presidents? Here's what some of you had to say. Steve says, of course they weren't. They were terrible. They lost the House by the biggest number since Watergate. Trump is delusional. Wow, Steve, no holding back there. But on the other hand, let's see what Candy had to say. Candy says, yes, in Obama's first midterm election, he lost 63 seats in the House and 6 in the Senate. Trump only lost about half that in the House and gained a couple in the Senate. Some interesting comments tonight, Alan, and if you didn't have a chance to vote, be sure to go to our ABC7 Facebook page every Friday to vote in our poll and share your comments with us. Alan, back to you.
Chloe, thank you. And folks, I would like to get your reaction to that. I mean, it's almost been a slow wave. Election night, we knew that Democrats took over the U.S. House, but since then, it has grown over to 30 seats. That's how you define a wave, Barry. But the president's point is, fair enough that Obama lost over 60 seats in his first election, and that if you compare it, he did better.
He had a Cat 2 hurricane against him. Obama had a Cat 5 hurricane against him. Yeah. But for Florida, it was a debacle for the Democrats. This was probably the worst election for the Florida Democratic Party in their history.
Why?
Because, first of all, they had the hope. They had created expectations that they were going to sweep. I'm one of the few analysts that the day before on Dick Greco's show in Tampa predicted a Republican sweep. I was only wrong on Nikki Fried. We lost a U.S. Senate seat as a Democrat. We gained 2 House seats, but that's not an even trade. We lost the governor and the executive branch other than Nikki Fried for Agriculture Commissioner. We only gained 1 seat in the Florida Senate and 5 seats in the Florida House. And now they have, in January 6th, Ron DeSantis will pick 3 conservative judges, replacing the most liberal judges. He will totally transform the court, and that will affect redistricting in 3 years.
And Jacob, the 2 congressional seats that the Democrats picked up in Florida were in South Florida in congressional districts that Hillary Clinton won but had Republican members of Congress. The Democrats did target a number of other districts around the state, including the 16th here, the district that I ran for in the Tampa area, the 15th, and in both times the Democrats came up short. Right. How do you jive that to the national trend where you had Republicans around the country in districts that the president won by 20 points going on to lose?
Florida missed the wave. There's no question about that.
Instead, we got red tide.
Well, a month before the election, it looked like that was really going to help the Democrats a lot, but it all got swept out to sea by Michael. I think I would argue a little bit. I don't know that this is the worst election for Democrats, but it certainly wasn't a good election for Democrats in the state of Florida. I do think, the fact that I think we have to come to grips, perhaps, with the fact that this is a red state. And that's what I think that this election showed more than anything.
Is it a red state when, if you look at the statewide races, for all intensive purposes, they were 50-50?
But it was a good year for Democrats.
But there was in the other 2 races where Rick Scott won, the generic congressional ballot was 5 or 6 in Florida. The congressional generic ballot this year was for the Republicans. This year was 6 to 8 for the Democrat. So the Democrats all had an 8-point wind at their back, and we still came up short. So I agree. Florida is now trending more Republican, and the fact is they won.
Right. And Ray, I mean, your take, the national trends don't seem to apply in Florida.
Never have and never will. Florida's unique. It always has been. I mean, we've as we've talked about many times, the many years that we've had the majority. When I went to the House the first time in 2010, we had a supermajority, which meant we could waive the rules, which we didn't do much. But that was a huge win.
But Obama did win this state twice.
Well, a very small amount, and so you have to look at these races. I mean, you look at Obama and who he's running against. Now you look at the fact that Trump has interjected himself 2 years before his election, and identity politics has come in. It helps some people and hurts some people, but in general, you've got those huge number of people that don't like either one of us. They don't like you, Barry, and they don't like me, because one's a Democrat and one's a Republican. And if you're an identity person and you're now a strong progressive, and if you're a Republican and you're a staunch conservative, whether you are or not, you are, based on identity of what's happening nationally.
All right, I want to completely change topic, and I want to talk about the decision by a federal judge in Washington to return the White House press credentials of Jim Acosta, the chief White House correspondent from CNN. Jacob, you wave your fist in the air.
That's right.
Let me ask you this tough question because you had news organizations from CNN and Fox that were on Jim Acosta's side here, but does it matter that some people feel that Acosta has become part of the story, not just because of asking the president tough questions, but in the manner that he does so?
Certainly there's reasons for people to dislike Jim Acosta, and there's reasons to question whether or not he's playing the role that people expect a journalist at CNN to play. But the problem with even bringing that into the equation when it talks about press credentials is it shouldn't matter whether you like or I like or Donald Trump likes anybody for them to have the right to question our government leaders. That's a fundamental right. It's the First Amendment to the United States Constitution for a reason, and that's why it really is an irrelevant question whether Jim Acosta is good at his job or not, whether he gets credentials.
Ray, I've heard a lot of Republicans say, you know what, CNN has 50 other credentialed reporters that could go into the White House. Jim Acosta was over the line here. Do you at all believe that it sets up a very dangerous precedent that a lawmaker, whether it's the president or anybody else, can say, I'll talk to that reporter, but I'm not going to talk to that reporter?
No, I don't think that's right, no matter who the president is or who the reporter is. Jim Acosta is there in that front row because he knows how to push President Trump's button. President Trump can usually push back. I'd be interested to see now whether Jim Acosta is in the back row or the front row, because they have that ability to do that based on the room. But I don't think it's ever good. I would rather Jim Acosta was in the front row between now and 2020, because the more he does for my side by doing what he does, which he can do based on his job and his who he works for, let him go, because I think it hurts them more than it hurts us. But not removing him. Shouldn't remove him.
Barry, doesn't it also can't viewers and the general public make determinations about this president by the way he answers tough questions, maybe even sometimes unfair questions? If you remember, if you go back to Sam Donaldson and Ronald Reagan, Sam Donaldson was pretty darn aggressive, and Reagan, with his sometimes self-deprecating humor, loved being the foil there.
Well, I think there was a different types of confidence there, and he also everything didn't have to revolve around him getting credit for every single decision. Donald Trump is a different type of personality. He's a celebrity personality where he feeds off of all of the attention going to him, and he has a very thin skin. Reagan had a much tougher hide, as he said. He was a leatherneck or whatever. The only problem, so the court said that they have to give him his credentials back, but they don't have to call on him. I mean, so now we could be eliminating CNN from ever getting part of the dialogue again, so that's a problem too.
We only have a few seconds left here, but do you think that, Jacob, are you concerned that there could be a chilling effect on whether it's Acosta or the other correspondents there, that they have to temper or feel they have to temper their questions because they don't want the same thing to happen to them?
Well, not now that the case has been won by CNN, and as long as that case stands, I think that shows that reporters can ask the questions that they bring to the press conferences and not fear punishment from a subject that doesn't want to face scrutiny.
All right, we have to take a quick break. We'll have final thoughts when we return, so stay with us.
Christmas Traditions by Lux Art Silks, where more is merrier. Make your holidays sparkle with style. Browse our amazing showroom, cute collectible cottages, and beautiful Christmas displays. Find the inspiration, selection, and quality you need to deck the halls merry and bright. Christmas Traditions also features the area's largest selection of quality pre-lit Christmas trees, every size, shape, and color, and plenty of decorations to make your home shine for the holidays. Christmas Traditions by Lux Art Silks, where more is merrier. Visit us on New 301, just a quarter mile north of University Parkway.
Accolades are great. Just wait until you see our prices. Rugs as Art, Sarasota's only area rug superstore.
The following message is brought to you by Mesobook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions. How did I get this disease? What are my treatment options? How will this affect my loved ones? You need answers, which is why we offer a free book written by medical professionals who have treated mesothelioma.
Call toll-free at 1-800-777-1366 or go to mesobook.com.
It's year-end clearance time at every Ghetto location. Over 3,000 new vehicles, over 1,000 used vehicles on clearance right now at Ghetto.com. And Ghetto Pre-Owned Certified Plus means buying with peace of mind. Get credit help, fast cash for your car, and year-end clearance prices right now at a Ghetto dealership near you. Ghetto's got it. At Ghetto.com.
Me, pick me. Oh, come on, man. Oh, man, I love technology. Hey, yo, check out my new phone. Look at this right here. For years, the DeSoto Club has needed improvements. Join me and Boys and Girls Club of Manatee County as we raise money to build a brand new facility. It will be bigger and better, just like it was 40 years ago when I attended. Invest in kids, build great futures.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes? B, console her?
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice, single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
And our guest joining us right now for final thoughts. I want to get your take on some exit polling done by CNN. Number one, that Republicans have an age problem. Number two, white women are swing votes. And number three, most people still identify, Barry, as Democrats, despite the results here in Florida.
That's true. But I think that even though the Republican Party is getting older, it's going to get even older because of the 25 top metro growth areas in the country, 10 are in Florida. And of those 10, 9, Donald Trump won by double digits, including the number one, which is in the Villages in Central Florida. More white Republicans registered over 55 there than all the Puerto Ricans after Hurricane Irma. So they're older, they're whiter, and they're all Republican, and they all vote.
Jacob, what do Democrats around here do? I mean, Margaret Good won. I'm sorry, Ray, but
hey, okay.
That's a bright spot here. But they got wiped out just about in every other race.
Yeah, I would say Democrats in Sarasota and Manatee significantly underperformed expectations. Frankly, that includes Margaret Good, who only won against Ray by less than 2% in the end.
Yes, 1.4.
Yeah, so
and that was despite a lot of energy, incredible canvassing on the weekends.
A lot of money.
She spent $1 million over the course of a year in this area, if you add her special election and what was spent in advance of the November race. I don't know. I think that the problem for Democrats locally is that all their energy seems to be compacted into the city of Sarasota, and they just can't survive, or at least they can't continue to grow if all of their energy is all bottled up right here.
Statewide, Ray, as they say, demographics are destiny. And in Florida, as well as every place else, the demographics are going against, I'm sorry, older white men. So what does the Republican Party have to do?
Well, it's just like Jacob said. I mean, let's think about that a minute. I don't care whether it's at the Villages or here or in Venice, where I'm going to retire when I get older. You know, it's
Venice, Italy, or Venice, Florida?
Yeah, Venice, Florida. But that's going to maintain a huge base for the Republicans in certain areas. Now, if you look for the metropolitan areas, you look at the city of Sarasota, Pinellas, Hillsborough, Tampa, St. Pete, where we always see folks that are more inclined to be Democrats move to. Look at downtown Sarasota, and a good friend of mine, Alex Coe, the other day mentioned the fact, look around the country. Every time somebody puts in a plan to make you a metropolitan city, and look at our high rises and so forth, that's what's going to happen in the voting registration.
All right, and we'll have to leave it there. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We want to thank our guests tonight, former State Representative Ray Pilon, Democratic political consultant Barry Edwards, and Jacob Ogles of SRQ Magazine.